वाले मोहम्मद सलावत अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मुहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. I begin in the name of Allah, the most beneficent and merciful. All praise belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for blessing us with existence and granting us this opportunity to move towards Him. Respected ulama, my elders, dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. Tonight we're holding the first majlis of the series of 3 majalis to commemorate the wafat of our last prophet, Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wa sallam. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The shahadat of our second Imam, Imam Hasan alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And shahadat of our 8th Imam, Imam Rida alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Brothers and sisters, as you know, all 3 majalis will start at 7:30 p.m. with Maghriban prayers. And these majalis will be addressed by our visiting scholar, Hujjatul Islam, Maulana Dr. Mahdi Hazari, inshallah. Tonight, I start the program by offering my condolences to all my brothers and sisters in Iman, especially the Imam of our time, Imam al-Hujjah, Imam Mahdi, Ajalallahu ta'ala farajahum. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, for the wafat of our last prophet, and for the shahadat of our 8th Imam, shahadat of our second Imam, Imam Hasan alayhi salam. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I'll start the program by sharing 2 ahadith. One is from our last prophet. Prophet has reported to have said there are 3 traits which Allah loves in people: briefness in speech, short length of sleep, and small portion of food. While there are 3 traits which He dislikes in them: talking too much, sleeping too much, and eating too much. Second hadith I would like to share is from Imam Hasan. Imam Hasan is reported to have said, if you adopt patience, Allahumma salli ala
Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. We recite a salam in praise of Bibi Zainab first, and then a short marsiya honoring the death of our prophet Muhammad, inshallah. Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. तज़किरा रहता है ज़ैनब का गिरफ्तारों में तज़किरा ज़ैनब का गिरफ्तारों में ज़िक्र सुग़रा का हुआ करता है बीमारों में तज़किरा ज़ुल्म अदा के छुपाए से छुपे फिर क्यों कर ज़ुल्म अदा के छुपाए से छुपे फिर क्यों कर جب صرف ہو دیواروں میں تذکرہ رہتا ہے. کہتے تھے محمد جو اجازت دے حسین. کہتے تھے محمد جو اجازت دے حسین. جا پڑے ہم ابھی چلتی ہوئی تلواروں میں تذکرہ رہتا ہے. زینب کا گرفتاروں میں تذکرہ رہتا ہے. صلوات علی محمد وعلی فاتحہ. اور محمد والے محمد صلوات. بیمار جب کہ احمد مختار ہو گئے. بیمار جب کہ احمد مختار ہو گئے. دشمن زیادہ در پائے آزار ہو گئے. زہر ستم سے موت کے آثار ہو گئے. صدمے اٹھا کے جینے سے بیزار ہو گئے. غل تھا جہاں سے نائب داور کا کچھ ہے. افسوس سوئے خلد پیمبر کا کچھ ہے. شفقت سے فاطمہ کو بلایا رسول نے. سمجھا کہ اپنے پاس بٹھایا رسول نے. جب دامن بطول کو پایا رسول نے. بستر کے بدلے اس کو بچھایا رسول نے. سر رکھ کے اپنا زانوئے دختر پہ سو گئے. راوی کا ہے یہ قول کہ بے ہوش ہو گئے. ہوش آیا تو بلایا حسن اور حسین کو. لپٹایا اپنے سینے سے ہر نور عین کو، نانا کے غم میں کھویا نواسوں نے چین کو، رو رو کے یہ سنایا شہ مشرقین کو، افسوس آج داغے جدائی دکھاؤ گے، سنتے ہیں ہم یہ سب سے ہمیں چھوڑ جاؤ گے، سر پیٹ پیٹ رونے لگی فاطمہ، بولی کہ کس طرح نا علم کھا فاطمہ، جو حال دل ہے کس سے وہ دوہرا فاطمہ، افسوس اپنے باپ سے چھٹ جا فاطمہ، اس غم سے آس ٹوٹ گئی دل ملول کی، آفت میں مبتلا ہوئی بیٹی رسول کی، آفت میں مبتلا ہوئی بیٹی رسول کی، بیمار جب کہ احمد صلوات علی محمد وعلی محمد.
Jazakallah brother Jafar Sayyid. May Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam accept your pursa. For Jafar Bhai's sehat and salamti, please recite a loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ale Muhammad. صفت یہ خاص ہے آل محمد کی زمانے میں، صفت یہ خاص ہے آل محمد کی زمانے میں، محمد ہی محمد ہے محمد کے گھرانے میں. Baitul Ilm will continue to host ladies and girls Majlis on Saturdays at 11 a.m. These Majalis will continue until Saturday, September 23rd, and these Majalis are being addressed by Sister Maryam Ali Tahir. Starting this Saturday, September 17th, Bloomage Non-Profit will be hosting a homework club for any Baitul Ilm youth in need of tutoring in math, English, reading, or any other school subject at Baitul Ilm Library right after Sunday school. If you are interested in registering your child to be tutored, or you would like to tutor yourself, other youth, please fill out the form on our website at baitulilm.org. For further information, please visit mybloomage.com. Mahdi Youth will be hosting a discussion with Shayk Mahdi Hazari after lecture tomorrow. The topic will be about Islam's stance on evolution. If you plan to attend, please register on our website. The Mahdi Youth of Sisters invites you to join them on Saturday, September 16th at Baitul Ilm for an enlightening discussion followed by a question and answer session with Sheikh Dr. Mahdi Hazari. Once again, if you'd like to attend, please register on our website. Tonight's Majlis is being sponsored by the family of Khalajan. For this family's sehat, salamti, barakat, please recite a loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Let's recite of Surah Fatiha for the Isale Sawab of this family's marhumeen, especially for Marhuma Khalajan and for Marhum Muhammad Habibullah, Ahmadi Begum, Mahjabeen Begum, Kausar Sultana, Imran Haider, and Mir Zainul Abidin, and for all of your marhumeen as well. Please recite Surah Fatiha preceded by a loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Tonight we're honored to host our visiting scholar, Hujjatul Islam, Shayk Mahdi Hazari. I'll just have a brief introduction for him before I invite him to address the Majlis. Shayk Mahdi Hazari was born in Toronto, Canada. He finished high school and thereafter completed his undergraduate studies at the University of Florida, Atlantic University, and then received his master's degree from the University of Toronto. He received his doctorate from Johns Hopkins University. He's a physiologist, environmental scientist by profession, specializing in neuro and cardiovascular physiology and studies the effects of air pollution on human health. Dr. Hazari also completed his Hausa studies under the direction of His Eminence Sheikh Muhammad Al-Ali Al-Halabi. Sheikh Hazari is a member of the Council of Shia Muslim Scholars of North America and a board member of the Imam Mahdi Association of the Maraje. In addition, Sheikh Hazari also contributes to the publication of Islamic books, authoring the booklet Who's Hussein and articles on numerous topics. He also provides expert review of jurisprudential books on common subjects like food and drinks, wills, and expiation. So at this time, without further ado, I would like to request Hujjatul Islam, Maulana Mahdi Hazari, to please come forward and address our community. Please welcome him with a loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad.
أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. I don't need it. Yeah, thank you. الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا رسول الله وعلى أهل بيتك المعصومين الأبرار الميامين المظلومين المضطهدين. السلام عليك وعلى ولدك المظلوم أبي محمد الحسن بن علي. يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة، يا غريب يا مظلوم يا عطشان، ما خاب والله من تمسك بكم، أمن من لجأ والتجأ إليكم. يا ليتنا فيا ليتنا كنا معكم نفوز والله فوزا عظيما. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. تلك الدار الآخرة نجعلها للذين لا يريدون علوا في الأرض ولا فسادا والعاقبة للمتقين. آمنا بالله. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. والسلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. My dear brothers and sisters, first of all, I want to thank Maulana Faizi, the Baytul Ilm, administrative team, all of you for inviting me and giving me this honor. That whole introduction, I'm not even sure what that says, to be honest. It's a bunch of big words, and in the end, it just means that I'm an ordinary guy, just like everyone else, to be honest. And the reason I throw my phone on the ground, you want to know the secret? Is because once in the middle of the Majlis, Siri began talking to me. And I was like, no, I'm not going to Dunkin' Donuts. So from then on, I throw it down on the ground. I even tried to break the microphone, but that didn't work out too well. Salawat ala Muhammadin. As I said, it is my distinct honor and my distinct privilege to be here with all of you. I thank you for the opportunity. We thank Allah first and foremost that He has given us a beacon, a light, a illuminated sun like Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. There is no one like Rasulullah. His position is unparalleled. His loftiness, his station is one that we only can look at from a distance and say, Ya Allah, allow us to grasp one piece, one little sliver of the light that comes from Him so that we may not fail in our existence. He, in His life, in the execution of His mission, did everything that was required of Him while facing great difficulty. And over the next 3 nights, inshallah, I want to speak a little simply about some aspects of His mission, but particularly consider 3 time periods. The first time period being the period where He announces His mission until the point where He has to leave Mecca and go to Medina after the Hijrah. The second period, which inshallah we'll talk about to some degree tomorrow, is when He has established or begins the nation of Islam, what is considered now the Ummah of Islam in Medina. And then the last period being the years just before His demise, when He was thinking forward to the next stage that would exist after Him. And you see that He was very calculated, as obviously someone inspired by Allah would be, but someone who was measured in his actions and did everything appropriately. And there's lots to learn from this. Just look at the beginning of his message. The Rawi, he states, the historians state, that in the beginning, he did not preach to anybody. For the first 3 years approximately, the only people he spoke to were his relatives. And when he did Da'wat dhul Ashira, when he called the people of his family, you all know this story, that he stood in front of them and he said to them, look, he was going to feed them. The first night when he called them, he fed them. There were 40 some odd of them who had come. Abu Lahab amongst them, his uncle, was there. He fed them. After feeding them, he was going to get up and proclaim. But Abu Lahab, it's related, he started talking nonsense and bringing other things into it, so Rasul was not able to speak. And he felt it inappropriate to then speak about his message, so he remained silent. On the second night though, he spoke. And he said, I am the Prophet of God. Desist in the worship of your idols. Worship the one Allah, believe in Him, the one sovereign Lord, the creator of everyone and everything. Accept what He has chosen for you. And live a life of piety, live a life that is moral and good. And then you know that he asked the question that who will be my successor, my supporter, my helper? And we know that a young boy stands up and he says, Ana ya Rasulallah, labbayka ya Rasulallah, I will do it. That position, that unique position, we see how it will translate over the many years and the many decades moving forward. And you see in the life of Rasulullah and what he does, a beautiful example for us how we have to live. Now, after speaking to the people of his family, the history describes that one day he goes out and sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, he climbs up onto a rock and he calls the people. And the people, they come in front of him and he says to them, he says, I am a warner. I have come to warn you. Because what lies on the other side of where you are now, meaning on the other side of your life, is chastisement and punishment if you don't listen to me. And I have come to warn you. Now look how he gives this message. He says, I've come to warn you because what lies on the other side of this, of where you are now, is chastisement and punishment, unless you heed what I say to you now. Follow the code that I have given to you. Now, obviously in those years it was very difficult. The people who he was preaching to were a strange group of individuals. That whole society was a strange society. Even before he had proclaimed the message of Islam, there were so many skirmishes and so many battles that were occurring in that area. There were what are called the 4 battles of Fujar. You all know of this. One battle, they say it took place that in Mecca, a man stands up and he starts to proclaim himself to be almost like a prophet. He says, I am very knowledgeable and all of you should listen to me, and all. He must have been high on himself, so he stood up and he's proclaiming to everybody, do this, do that, come to me, I will straighten your life out, etc. He was a pagan. Somebody came with a sword, struck him in the leg. Hit him in the leg, he got injured. The tribes of these 2 men started fighting and killing each other. This is the world in which Rasulullah lived. That was the first battle of Fujar. The second battle took place essentially because there was a woman from one of the tribes. She was harassed by somebody, something happened, and the 2 tribes, the tribe of the woman and the person who assaulted her, got into a skirmish. And they began to fight with each other. The third battle that took place was because someone owed a debt. From one tribe, he owed a debt to somebody from another tribe. They could not resolve it peacefully. They began to fight and kill each other. So much blood was being shed. So much tyranny, so much injustice, so much cheating was occurring in that world. Not only that, but the fourth battle, which was the same type of situation, where people were being mistreated. A man from outside had come, and he had said, look, I am a visitor to Mecca. One of your traders, one of your merchants has cheated me. And nobody listened, because they protected their own, even though it was unjust. It was cheating this individual. So now you see the level of corruption that existed in the Meccan society. So if you ask yourself now today, looking at it maybe from an impartial view, what would you say would be Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam's message? Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa alihi. Would you say that, look, do right, behave properly, behave in a just way, begin there, and from there cultivate belief in God? Is that the right way to go about? Say, look, stop cheating each other, stop killing each other, stop shedding blood, stop practicing usury, etc. All of these things that are deeply corrupting to society. Stop it, and while you're doing that, worship God. No, he doesn't say that. He says, قُولُوا لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ تُفْلِحُوا. Say La ilaha illallah, you will be in success. Say La ilaha illallah, you will be in success. That's the first thing he says. Say La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah is the starting point for everything. It has to be. It is the beginning. And I will address some of that insha'Allah tonight. Now, as he says that, he doesn't stop. He continues to preach this message. One, about La ilaha illallah. The worship of any idol is not acceptable. to God. God does not want that your head should bow in front of anything or anyone other than Him. And when I say your head bowing, I don't mean necessarily just the physical head that falls in front of Allah. It means anything. Your heart should not bow in front of anyone or anything. You are the slave of Allah. You are not the slave of anyone or anything else. And that's why this message is so clear that when he says it, you can hear its echo even today. قُولُوا لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهُ تُفْلِحُوا. My dear brothers and sisters, why do we fail? We fail because we have made gods out of everything other than Allah. We've bowed to everything other than truly God. We've bowed to our careers, our homes, our families, the way we want to live, the status of our life, the standard of what we see is suitable for the way we live. All of it, we have enslaved ourselves to it. And in doing so, we have named them as pseudo-gods. And that's why that message of Rasulullah, it echoes even today. And with it, constantly he is giving the tenets that follow from Tawheed. From Tawheed, everything flows. Everything flows. So you see, he expands. He begins to call whoever he can, and he faces great difficulty in Mecca. Not only does he face the persecution of the kuffar of Quraysh, but people throw garbage upon him. They hurl insults at him. They call him names. The children follow him, throw rocks at him, one after the other. You all know the history, the story of it. Until finally, they say 6 men meet with him from Medina. Now, look at this strange, if you look at the history, compare Mecca with Medina. They're not very far. Those of you who have gone for Hajj and Umrah, really in the grand scheme of things, how far are they? Not far. Imam As-Sajjad alayhi salatu wasalam, 25 times he went walking. Did he not? Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. If he went 25 on his legs, carried on his legs from Medina to Mecca, is not a big difference. But look at the difference in thinking between these two cities, the people of these two cities. Very different, vastly different. In Medina, now it's not a city necessarily structured on trade and lots of wealth. It's an agricultural city more. The people are not as wealthy. But they have one other problem, that they are constantly fighting with each other. Where there was a hegemony in Mecca, where some tribes, the tribes of Quraysh, ruled over everyone, oppressed everyone. In Medina, the tribes just fought against each other. They had Jewish tribes, the Banu Nadir and Banu Qurayza, that constantly fought against each other. The Aus and the Khazraj, Medina, alaykum as-salam wa rahmatullah, they constantly fought against each other. So they say 6 men from Medina, they had come to Mecca, they met Rasulullah. Some of them included men like Al-As'ad ibn Zurara, men like Sa'ad ibn Ubadah, different men from Medina who had come. Rasulullah, he would try to meet everybody. Whenever someone will come from outside to Mecca, he will go and meet them. So when these people came from Medina, he went to meet them. He said, look, I am the Prophet of God. I have come to bring you the message. He would recite Quranic ayah to them, and many a times they would not listen. One time a tribe came to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. They said, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. This is the tribe of Banu Amir. The tribe of Banu Amir, they come to Rasulullah. Actually, Rasul goes to them. They're visiting from outside. He says to them, look, believe in Allah, the oneness of Allah. Let go of your idols. Abandon those. Practice the things that Allah wants you to practice. They said, we will believe in you. We will follow what you're telling us to follow, but we have one condition, that you make us your successor. Meaning they had in their mind that Rasul is going to build a big kingdom, and then if he builds a big kingdom, that when he dies, he bequeaths it to them. Rasul, he says, the authority of something like this is not in my hands, it's in the hands of Allah. Allah is the one who decides his kingdom and where it goes. So they, mumbling to each other, walked away, and they said, he wants us to work hard for him, to support him, but in the end, whatever we earn will be given to somebody else, meaning he will choose someone else as their successor. You saw the mindset of these people. They left. People like this would come to Rasulullah all the time, and Rasul will try to convince them. Some will listen, some will not. The vast majority at that point did not listen. But these 6 men from Medina, they listened. They go back. In Medina, unfortunately in those years, the fighting between the Aus and the Khazraj was very severe. The battle of Bu'ath had taken place. Many Khazarajis had died. Many of the Aus had died. The Aus had been defeated. And they were going to put a man named Abdullah ibn Ubay up as the leader of these two tribes. He was a respected man. This man, Abdullah ibn Ubay, I don't know how many of you know, he was the biggest hypocrite in Medina. The biggest hypocrite. The biggest enemy of Islam. So these two tribes, they come and they join Rasulullah in the 12th year after the proclamation of his mission. They come, they meet him. There are 12 men. And they meet with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam in a place called Aqaba. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Yes, thank you. So they meet with Rasulullah in Aqaba. Rasulullah tells them about the religion of Islam. He quotes the ayat. He says, believe in Allah. Not only believe in Allah, the creator of all, the sovereign, but he says, don't kill each other unjustly. Don't rob the money of each other. Don't steal the property of each other. Don't steal from the orphan. Don't oppress each other. Don't take each other's rights, etc. Goes through all of the ethical tenets. And he says, go back. These 12 men, they go back. They carry this message with them. And in Medina, they begin to spread this message. Initially, people don't listen. But they keep spreading, that a little later on, sometime later, even before the Hijrah, 73, 72 of them approximately, they come with a group of 500 Medinites to Mecca in the time of Hajj. The Hajj is taking place, 70 so Muslims come with them to meet Rasulullah. And when they meet Rasulullah, he tells them that we will meet on the 13th of Dhul Hijjah in Mina at night time. Don't tell anybody, because the kuffar of Quraysh are watching. He says, come at night time. They all come at night time to meet Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Rasulullah, he says to them, I am here, but you must pledge to me that you will follow this religion. They say, Abbas, the uncle of Rasulullah, is with him. He says to them, look, he says to the people of Medina, he says, the Banu Hashim, the family of Muhammad, they will defend and protect him whether they believe in him or not. That's how much they love Rasulullah. Whether they are believers or not, they will defend and protect Muhammad. Are you ready to do so? He's telling the people of Medina. This is the uncle of Rasulullah. They say, yes, we are. We are ready. He says, if you are not, then tell us now, be honest now, and we will keep him here with us because we can protect him. They said, no. One man stands up. He says, whatever we have in our hearts, we will say it on our tongue. You will find us to be honest of whatever we are saying. Ya Rasulullah, we want you to come. Come to Medina. We will support you. Now, you know the story. Rasulullah, he stands up. He says to them, the time has not come, but very soon I will join you. Now, my question to you is, why is it that Mecca was one way, but Medina was the opposite? What caused those people of Medina to suddenly open their doors and the Islam to spread? Is not even that far. How far is Medina from Mecca? These are essentially the same people, are they not? It's not like two different countries, two different continents, two different cultures. These are essentially the same people. Why Mecca does not accept, the vast majority don't accept, but Medina becomes an Islamic nation? The historians, they say two things. One, that the people of Medina had many Jews living there. So they had been hearing for a long time that a prophet is going to be born amongst the Arabs, that he is going to come to bring the final law of Allah. So they had been hearing this for a long time. Number two, the people of Medina had gotten tired of the fighting that was existing between them. The Aus and the Khazraj constantly fighting against each other. They had become tired and exhausted by this. They needed someone to bring morality into the society. They needed someone to bring order and proper human values. And so their hearts were open for Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. So that's why you see that when Rasulullah finally decides to leave Mecca and come to Medina, is to a community that has opened its hands to him. Not only because of him bringing these lofty values of tolerance and forgiveness and compassion and fairness and justice and not robbing the rights of each other, but because it all emanates from one place, and that is Allah. That is faith. So now I ask you, how is it that you understand this Iman? If I were to say to you today, if someone were to come to you who is a non-Muslim and asks you the question, why do you believe what you believe? What answer would you give? We think it's a simple answer, but I will say to you myself that I wouldn't know what to say. If someone walked to you in the street, we do this professionally, I don't know how many of you do this, but we teach our students in academia and in research that if you were on an elevator and a senior manager walks in suddenly and you've got literally 10 seconds to give them your elevator pitch, meaning what you do, what would you say in 10 seconds? So if someone were to ask you, what do you believe and why do you believe in it? Why do you believe in it? What answer will you give? What answer will you give? I believe because God is one. Okay, well, prove it. Well, I don't know how to prove it. He's one. He's the one who created me. Why do you believe that his religion is right? Why do you believe that his prophet brought the right message? Why do you believe in the values that are established by this religion? You don't have an answer. Let me propose it to you in a different way. How about looking at it from the opposite side? If you want to understand what is belief, then you have to know what disbelief is also, no? How can you identify belief? By knowing what is disbelief. Same goes for anything in life, no? If you want to know what is honesty, identify dishonesty. You will know what honesty is. You want to know what generosity is, look for miserliness on the other side of it. If you can identify what is opposite to your fundamental belief, you will know your belief so deeply, so soundly, because you'll know what's opposite to it. You'll be able to identify it. That is common sense. You want to know what is good for your body, you have to also know what's bad for your body. You don't just live on one side of the street. You drive on both sides, going and coming. You have to understand. So now, if you want to know what is belief, what is iman, you have to also know what is kufr, what is denial. Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. He says kufr is built on four things. It's reported, he says, kufr, denial, disbelief is built on four things. Okay? The first thing, ghulu. Ghulu means extremism, to be extreme in your behavior, extreme in what you do. So when he says that it's built on four things, it means these four things, when unchecked, when uncontrolled, when not corrected, lead you to a path of kufr, denial. And that's not just kufr like you're worshipping an idol. It's kufr that can plague us as people who call ourselves believers. Believe me, don't think that we are immune from kufr. Kufr is the denial of even a speck of God's justice on us, God's goodness to us, God's ni'mah on us. We have to be so careful. So Amir al-Mu'mineen, he says extremism of any kind. If you are an extremist and practice ghulu, then you are putting up a wall or a pillar that holds up kufr. Now he explains what is this extremism. And the explanation is that you overemphasize your own opinion. Ya Allah. You overemphasize your own opinion. That is extremism. He says, be careful. Don't think that you know everything. This goes for all of us. I'd like to say this myself, yes? I am the father and the husband of the house, so I am the chief master, and everything I say is correct, and no one should question me. No? I don't know, maybe some of you think the way I do, that my opinion stands above everyone's. And yet, Amir al-Mu'mineen is saying, be very careful of this, overemphasizing your opinion. So ghulu is one. Number two is shak. Shak, when you translate to English, it means doubt. Doubt means what? It means that you have two things in front of you, potentially that are antithetical to each other. You don't know which one is correct. 50-50, you don't know. You're right down the middle. That is shak. Shak means you're stuck in the middle. You don't know if this is right or that's right. This is wrong or that's wrong. Shak can lead to kufr. If you don't determine what is correct, it will take you where? To kufr. Towards denial. You have to find out. You cannot remain in shak. Number three is shubha. Shubha is little like shak. Shubha means that you have taken haqq and you have covered it with batil. You've taken the truth and what is correct and you have covered it with what is incorrect. Okay? Let me give you an example. Today, when you talk about society, about what is considered to be moral and ethical, are those boundaries not being crossed today? Today, what is ethical and moral, is that not being crossed today? It is. It is truly being crossed today. That what is correct and what is considered just and ethical today, that's changing very, very quickly. What is considered to be normal, quote unquote, 50 years ago is not the same today. So you see where Amir al-Mu'mineen, he says shubha is occurring. He says labsul haqqi bil batil, meaning you take haqq and you cover it with a cloth of batil on top of it. Ya Allah, may Allah save us from that. He says the fourth thing, the fourth pillar on which kufr is going to stand is fisq, immorality or corruption. Okay? Immorality or corruption. Immorality and corruption, what does it mean? It means that you have purposefully become heedless of what is correct in front of you. You have chosen to ignore what is correct, what is proper. We don't do this to some degree. We know what is good for our physical body, we ignore it. We don't practice it. We ignore it, we put it aside. So for our soul, what Allah is telling us to do that is correct, if we don't practice it, what happens? Then we are going down the wrong path, my dear brothers and sisters. So these four aspects have to be understood. Ghulu, shak, shubha, and fasq. These four things exist. Now the question is, how do you identify them? And my question to you now is that if Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, he came and he didn't just say qulu la ilaha illallah tuflihu. He didn't just say la ilaha illallah and you will reach salvation. With that message, he started telling the people of Mecca what? That adhere to morality, have morality, be moral, meaning don't cheat each other. Hilf al-fudul is an agreement that took place when Rasulullah was a young man. He was a teenager, some say 15, 16 years old at that time. And he participated in this hilf al-fudul. What it was the people of Mecca coming to an agreement that they're not going to cheat each other anymore. That they're going to treat each other properly with good morals and have morality. So some will ask the question, if they reach this stage without God being in the presence, God being in the middle of it, do you need to believe to be a moral human being? Can you just be moral on your own? Can you have good morality without believing in God? Well, ostensibly you should be able to, no? Should you not? Some are saying no. I don't know. Is it? Can you be moral without believing in God? Can you have good ethics, do the right thing, be just, be compassionate, be merciful without believing in God? Could you? Ostensibly you can. Can you not? There are some people who argue that this, and we'll talk about this maybe tomorrow. The topic of evolution had to come up, so I might as well jump into it a little bit. Some people say that being moral is evolutionarily built into us. You'll say, well, how so? Because if you look at the fossil record, and again, I'm not saying anything about where human came from, please don't read into what I am saying. I'm giving you a theory that is proposed, that even amongst the prehistoric humans who were here, the ones before us, for which there is a fossil record, you see that when they lived alone, they were able to get their food, but what they determined was when resources became scarce, food was difficult to come by, if they cooperated with each other, it became easier to hunt the animal, to grow the crop, and to live communally together, to support each other. And so that developed evolutionarily over a time period, that people started to work together, made communities. They found out that not only is cooperation good, but that whatever they bring in terms of crops and food and animal flesh for food, etc., they would share it equally. Each one would get an equal share. This is morality, no? Well before insan shows up on the scene. And there are records of this. So some people say this was built. It's built into us. It's deeply ingrained. Those who deny the existence of God, they will say human beings are moral, right? Now, if that's the case, then why is our world filled with injustice, tyranny, murder, and killing of every sort? Why does that exist today? Because there's a lack of belief. Morals without belief has no foundation. I give you an example. How many of you have heard of the trolley dilemma? Yes? The trolley dilemma. Okay. I'm going to give you a scenario, and you'll say, what sort of majlis is this? Bear with me. I'll give you a scenario. You are on a train track, right by a train track, okay? There is a train coming. You see it coming from the left of you. It's moving down fairly quickly. The train track splits, okay? One side going here, one side going there. On one side, after the split, there are 5 people working. You don't know who they are. On the other side, there's 1 person working. On the other side of the track, on the other side of the split. You have to make a split decision to send the trolley one way or the other. You cannot stop it. You cannot warn them. Someone's going to die. Who do you kill? Do you send it to kill the 5, or do you send it to kill the 1? Do you send it to kill the 1 purposefully, knowing that if you kill the 1, you will save the 5? Who will do it? You will say, that's reasonable, no? You'll say, oh, sacrifice the 1 life for the 5. Sacrifice the 1 life for the 5. All you have to do is throw the switch. The track will switch over to the left. It'll go, it'll kill the 1 person, the 5 will survive. Good, right? Makes sense? Now you don't know anything about them. However, what if the only way to stop the train was, if there's a man standing there, you push him and you drop him in front of the train, he dies and you save all 6 people. Is that moral? Is that morality? Simple question. Strange thing here is that when they did brain scans of people, when they asked them this question, they did some imaging of the brain to see what parts of the brain were being activated. They found that when they gave them the first scenario, where they had a switch, a lever, to pull, to send the direction to the person who's working alone versus the 5, they found that the part of the brain that became activated was the rational part of the brain, the part of the brain that's using information, processing that information. But when they gave them the scenario where they had to push somebody onto the tracks to stop the train from killing the 6 people, guess which part of the brain got activated? No longer the rational side. The emotional side got activated suddenly. Not the rational side anymore. Now let me ask this question. Let's say you're standing there with that switch. Before, you didn't know any of these 6 people, the 1 on one side, the 5 on this side. Let's say you suddenly know that your son is standing on that one side, or your daughter. God forbid, may that never allow that to happen to any of you or your families. But let's say it's one of your loved ones on this one side and 5 on that side. What will you do? You will send the train towards the 1 to kill the 1, sacrifice the 1 to save the 5? Ya Allah, that changes the dynamic completely. Changes the dynamic completely. So now, how does insan develop morality with this? What's the code? I go ask 100 people, I guarantee they will all give different answers. And each will have a justification for why they did what they did. Will they not? How do you establish morality in such a circumstance? They say that this trolley dilemma, it's been used for decades. You know what it does? It forces people to think about the consequences of their actions. No? That if I kill the 1, I'll save the 5, right? You're thinking down the road. And if I save the 5, then that's 5 families that won't be sad, only 1 family will be sad. But if I go and I kill the 5 and I leave the 1, 5 families will be sad, and this only 1 family will be happy that their loved one was saved. You start thinking consequences. But how far down the road can you think consequences? Maybe 1 step down the road? 2 steps? You can't think more than that because you don't know. That's why deen requires iman. That's why morality requires a faith in a God who knows everything, who sees infinity steps down the road. And he will tell you, do this, don't do that. Follow this step, don't follow that. This is moral, this is immoral. Don't apply what you think, because your vision only can see 1 step forward, 2 steps forward at most. You cannot see beyond that. Your mind doesn't understand beyond that. Morality can be had in society with people who don't believe in God, who don't have belief. But it's extremely shallow. And when difficult circumstances come and they have to decide, and you ask them, why did you decide what you did? The justification is usually quite feeble. Whereas when you say, I trusted in the one who knows everything, who created every insan, who is all just, all adil, and I know he will never tell me to do something that is unjust, then you are safe and secure. Then you have placed your hands in the one who will ensure that only the best will come out, even if, God forbid, someone has to die down the road. That is the connection between faith and morality. And that's why the Holy Quran, it describes, it says, وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ فِيكُمْ رَسُولَ اللَّهِ لَوْ يُطِيعُكُمْ فِي كَثِيرٍ مِنَ الْأَمْرِ لَعَنِتُّمْ. He says, no. He's telling the people, know that Rasul is amongst you. Know that Rasul is amongst you. If he were to obey you and follow you in a lot of the matters, you would have been in trouble. If he followed what you told him to do, he would have been in trouble. Look at that. That's why I even say this. It's a strange thing that we see in some of the other the books of our brothers and sisters, that there were companions who will come and tell Rasulullah what to do. On the other hand, whenever he was sitting in the presence of Ali ibn Abi Talib, and he would say, Ya Ali, what do you think? What would Ali say? He will say, Allah and His Rasul know better, Ya Rasulullah, and he will remain silent. Until Rasul pushed him that, Ya Ali, you tell me, Ya Ali, you tell me, Ya Ali, you tell me. No, Ali will remain silent. Why? Because there is a code given by Allah. And the ayat says it. Know that Rasul is amongst you. If you follow him, if he were to follow you and obey you in what you are telling him to do, you will be in trouble. Now I ask this question. That you want to know something, you have to know its opposite, no? You want to know what is iman? Find out what is kufr first. You want to know what is honesty? Know what is dishonesty. Yes? You want to know where is light? Look for darkness. You will know where is light, or vice versa. You want to see somebody who has vision and can see the world clearly? Look for someone who is blinded by their greed and their animosity and everything else. You will see. No? So now I say, look at the ayah of the Holy Quran. This same ayah. It says, وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ فِيكُمْ رَسُولَ اللَّهِ لَوْ يُطِيعُكُمْ فِي كَثِيرٍ مِنَ الْأَمْرِ لَعَنِتُّمْ. Know that Rasul is amongst you. If he were to obey you and follow you in what you are telling him to do, in a lot of what you are telling him to do, you would have been in trouble. وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ حَبَّبَ إِلَيْكُمُ الْإِيمَانِ وَزَيَّنَهُ فِي قُلُوبِكُمْ. Allah has endeared faith for you. Look, He says He's made it an ornament in your heart. God has made it so Iman is beautiful to you. You love it. It's dear to you. And He has made it an ornament in your heart. وَكَرَّهَ إِلَيْكُمَ الْكُفْرَ وَالْفُسُوقَ وَالْعِصْيَانَ. He says, and He has made detestable and ugly to you kufr, fusuq, and usyan. Now look, on one end is Iman, on the other end is what? Three things. Not just Iman and kufr. Iman, and opposite to Iman, kufr, fusuq, usyan. Three things. One is kufr. We know kufr is opposite of Iman. Denial of that which Allah has said is kufr. It's the opposite of Iman. But Allah in this ayah includes two other things. Number two, immorality, opposite of Iman. If you are not moral, you are not following Iman. It is the opposite of Iman. Wa'asyan, disobedience to God. If you are disobedient, you are away from Iman. Iman encompasses everything. Iman covers everything. And that's why you see in the actions of Amir al-Mu'mineen that when he goes out to fight Umar ibn Abd Wad, what does Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam say? Some report Jibreel says it. Baraz al-Iman kulluhu ila al-kufri kulleh, or ila al-shirki kulleh. That today all Iman has gone out to fight all of kufr. That is Ali ibn Abi Talib. Because it is not just about faith, it is about morals. My dear brothers and sisters, why do I tell you this? Because when we teach our children, we are not just teaching them to be good human beings. We are not just teaching them to be compassionate and honest and respectful of the elders and help the poor and speak gently and calmly and nicely and behave with respect. Yes, those are all good things, but those are rooted in the love of God. They are rooted in faith. Why? Because if they are not rooted in faith, when those morals come up against something that clashes with them in society, they will fall apart. Faith is what keeps those morals grounded. And that morality cannot be separated from faith. It is a part of faith. It is rooted in faith. And that's why you see Rasulullah's actions. And that's why you see that even after the Fatah of Mecca in the 8th year after Hijrah, this is his hometown. He was born there. His family was there. This is his root in Mecca. The house of God is there. How long does he stay? Does not remain after the liberation of Mecca. He could have said, I finally come home. Does he stay? No, he goes back to Medina. He goes back to Medina and dies in Medina, buried in Medina. Why? It's not just about faith, it's about morality and the seat of morality that Medina represented at that time for him. The growth of this Islamic nation. And what was to be the struggle against what is to come. Yes? And we will talk about this on Saturday, inshallah, a little bit. Do you think Rasulullah did not know what is to come? Indeed he knew. Indeed he knew. He knew that the Shajarat al-Mal'una, the cursed tree, the despicable tree that is Banu Umayyah, they're there, plotting away. And that in no way, shape, or form are they going to ever relinquish or rest until they can take power and they can corrupt. So much so that you know that Muawiyah, even when he's dying and leaving this world, read the letter he writes to his son Yazid. It is quite a poetic letter if you read it, from a father who knows he's dying to his son, who clearly he must have had some love or affection for. And what does he say to him? You see, he says, be good with the people, don't be too stern, don't be too hard. He's acting like he is a benevolent Khalifa, telling his son, deal with this person like that, deal with this person like this, behave like a benevolent ruler. Meanwhile, was there anything in his actions in those many decades before that showed morality of any kind? There was not. There was only corruption of religious law. There was only the will and the desire and the drive to wrest power away from those who rightfully had it by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to remove any opposition. And you know that it was our beloved Imam, our second Imam, who had to deal with Muawiyah more than anyone else, other than his father. And I give you a few details on him as we remember him and we remember his grandfather today. That when he had the support, when the support had been pledged to him from Kufa, just like his brother Abi Abdullah al-Hussein, that when he had ridden out to meet the army from Syria, to meet Muawiyah, he had not only sent one of his generals forward, but his own cousin had been sent. Ubaydullah ibn Abbas, who was his cousin, had been sent. Unfortunately, you know what happened to Ubaydullah ibn Abbas. Ubaydullah ibn Abbas was tempted away by Muawiyah, was bribed. And he abandoned Imam Hasan. He left. And when he left, those soldiers who were weak in faith, had no resilience, they fell apart, they walked away. They walked away. One general kept going, kept trying to fight, kept trying to defend, doing what he had to do. They say Imam Hasan is traveling with some people with him, and as he's going, a man named Al-Jarrah ibn Sinan comes to him. He pulls out a dagger and he stabs Imam al-Hasan in his leg. He was trying to mortally wound him, but he misses and he hits him in the leg. And he hits him so deep, he strikes the bone of his leg.
Imam Hasan, he falls from the horse, he grabs the dagger. Very quickly the men come, they restrain the assailant, they take the dagger away. But Imam Hasan now with this wound becomes very ill. 1 month it's related, he remains sick. And in this month, what happens? The people who had pledged support to Imam Hasan now are starting to walk away. My dear brothers and sisters, this is an issue of faith. This is an issue of those who really believed versus those who did not really believe. And unfortunately, the label of Muslim is not sufficient today to say that you have reached where you're supposed to reach. There were many of them who may have been moral individuals. Moral in the sense that they didn't commit corruption or do things that were immoral. But certainly they didn't have the faith that was necessary. Otherwise they would have stood with the grandson of Rasulullah. Now that was not enough. Such that the Rawi, he reports that one day when he comes home, he has been fasting. It is very hot. Ju'da bint al-Ash'ath, his wife, she prepares yogurt for him. He drinks the yogurt, and as he drinks the yogurt, he realizes the poison has entered. And immediately he says, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. My dear brothers and sisters, this same Al-Hasan al-Mujtaba alayhi salam, when he was lying there, when Rasulullah is lying in his last moments, when the time of demise of death came of Rasulullah, he was going in and out of consciousness. He would be unconscious, and no one was allowed to come in and see him. The room was empty. The Rawi, he says that at one point, Al-Hasan and Al-Hussein, they run in. They jump on, they're little boys. They jump on the legs of Rasulullah. Rasulullah opens his eyes. Imam Ali alayhi salam, he comes in. He's trying to tell the sons, Al-Hasan and Al-Hussein, don't disturb your grandfather. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, he opens his eyes. He says to Imam Ali, he says, Da'huma ya Ali, let them be. He says, Da'ni atazawwad bihima wa yatazawwadani bi. Da'ni ashummuhuma wa yashummani. He says, allow them, Ya Ali, to hold on to me and feel the connection to me, and allow me to feel the connection to my grandsons. Allow me to smell their fragrance, and let them smell the fragrance of their grandfather, Rasulullah. Because Ya Ali, Rasulullah, he says, Ya Ali, Ya Abul Hasan, very soon, this son of yours, Al-Hasan, he will be fed the poison, and he will not live in this world, taken away and returned to us. And as for your son Al-Hussein, he will face the swords and the arrows in Karbala. وكأني بسيدي رسول الله, as if he knew what was going to be faced by these two grandsons. That Al-Hasan's body will be brought to the Baqi', that it will be taken first to the grave of Rasulullah by Al-Hussein, by Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas and the brothers, but that the ziyarah, the burial next to Rasulullah, will be denied to him. The road will be blocked. This is the grandson of Rasulullah. This is the peace of Rasulullah. And they denied him that ziyarah even after the death, such that he has to be buried away from his grandfather, away from his mother Fatima. But that father, Al-Hasan, the brother to Al-Hussein, He leaves his mark on this world on the day of Ashura. Do not forget the approach of Qasim ibn al-Hasan, that sign of his father, coming up to Aba Abdullah, saying to him, "Then li ya Amma, give me permission to fight." And his uncle looking at him saying, "Ya Qasim, kayfa tara al-maut? How do you see death?" And Qasim replies to him, "Innahu ahla min al-asad." It is sweeter to me than even the honey. Finally, they say Al-Hussein, he takes the amama of his brother and places it on Qasim's head, places the armor on his body, gives him the sword and the scabbard on his waist, and sends him to the enemy. Until finally the call comes, "Assalamu alayka ya amma adrikni." He has fallen from the horse. What were the thoughts of Al-Hussein? To find the body of Qasim ibn al-Hasan, falling on that body, crying out that "Wa Qasima, يعز على عمك أنك تنادي فلا يجيبك." Oh, it is difficult on your uncle that you called on him. You asked him to come to your support and he could not do so. صبرا يا بني عمومتي، صبرا يا بني أخوي. May Allah have patience, may Him give patience to the family of my brother Al-Hasan. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا آل محمد أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. إن لله وإنا إليه راجعون. باسمك العظيم الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم يا الله. اللهم إنا نسألك وندعوك ونقسم عليك بحق الزهراء وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها والسر المستودع فيها لعن الله ظالميها. اللهم شافي كل مريض، اللهم رد كل غريب، اللهم فك كل أسير، اللهم غير سوء حالنا بحسن حالك يا كريم. اللهم وفقنا لمراضيك وجنبنا معاصيك وثبت أقدامنا على صراطك المستقيم وخذ بأيدينا إليك يا أرحم الراحمين. وفرج عنا يا الله فرجا عاجلا قريبا كلمح البصر أو هو أقرب من ذلك. وافرغ علينا صبرا وتوفنا مسلمين. والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين.
सब मिल के पढ़े।
Imam Hasan, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. बरसात में तीरों की ये किसका जनाजा है? बरसात में तीरों की یہ کس کا جنازہ ہے برسات تیروں کی، یہ کس کا جنازہ ہے برسات میں تیروں کی، یہ کس کا برسات میں تیروں کی، یہ کس کا جنازہ ہے برسات میں تیروں کی، یہ کس کا جنازہ ہے بتلاؤ مسلمانوں، یہ کس کا نواسا ہے برسات میں تیروں کی، یہ کس کا جنازہ ہے برسات میں تیروں کی، یہ کس کا جنازہ ہے ماہ سفر لوگو، یہ کس کی شہادت ہے ماہ سفر لوگو، یہ کس کی شہادت ہے زہر ملا جس کو احمد کا نواسا ہے برسات میں تیروں کی، یہ کس کا جنازہ ہے برسات میں تیروں کی، یہ کس کا جنازہ ہے اے قلم بتا تیرے آنسو کیوں نکل آئے، اے قلم بتا تیرے آنسو کیوں نکل آئے، قاسم کو یتیموں میں کیا تو نے بھی دیکھا ہے برسات میں تیروں کی، یہ کس کا جنازہ ہے برسات میں تیروں کی، یہ کس کا جنازہ ہے اے لال کرو ماتم آنکھوں کو بند کر کے، اے لال کرو ماتم آنکھوں کو بند کر کے، لپٹی ہوئی میت سے ہے فاطمہ زہرا ہے برسات میں تیروں کی، یہ کس کا جنازہ ہے برسات میں تیروں کی، یہ کس کا جنازہ ہے گھر فاطمہ زہرا کا بے دینوں نے لوٹا ہے، گھر فاطمہ زہرا کا بے دینوں نے لوٹا ہے، دیکھو تو ذرا لوگو امت کا تماشا ہے برسات میں تیروں کی، یہ کس کا جنازہ ہے برسات میں تیروں کی، یہ کس کا جنازہ ہے آؤ تابوت محمد کا اٹھاؤ لوگو، 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 ساری دنیا کو وفاداری، ساری دنیا کو وفاداری سکھاؤ لوگو، آؤ تابوت محمد کا اٹھاؤ لوگو، آؤ تابوت محمد کا اٹھاؤ لوگو، جس عقیدت سے بپا کرتے ہو میلاد نبی، جس عقیدت سے بپا کرتے ہو میلاد نبی، فرش غم ویسے محمد کا، فرش غم ویسے محمد کا بچھاؤ لوگو، آؤ تابوت محمد کا اٹھاؤ لوگو، آؤ تابوت یہ صف غم ہے محمد کی، یہاں فرق نہیں، یہ صف غم ہے محمد کی، یہاں فرق نہیں۔ ہاں اسی صف پہ زمانے کو، ہاں اسی صف پہ زمانے کو بلاؤ لوگو، آؤ تابوت محمد کا اٹھاؤ لوگو، آؤ تابوت محمد کا اٹھاؤ لوگو۔ گھر میں ہے فاطمہ زہرا کے اندھیرا چھایا، گھر میں ہے فاطمہ زہرا کے اندھیرا چھایا، آج کی رات چراغوں کو، آج کی رات چراغوں کو بجھاؤ لوگو، آؤ تابوت محمد کا اٹھاؤ لوگو، آؤ تابوت محمد کا اٹھاؤ لوگو، یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین
صلی علی محمد وآل محمد۔
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد عبدك ورسولك وحبيبك وصفيك ونبيك وخيرتك من خلقك وحافظ سرك ومبلغ رسالاتك، وعلى علي أمير المؤمنين ووصي رسول رب العالمين، وعلى الصديقة الطاهرة فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين، وعلى سبطي الرحمة وإمامي الهدى الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم وصل على أئمة المسلمين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والخلف الهادي المهدي الإمام القائم صاحب العصر والزمان، الأمان 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 من زوال الإيمان وفتن الزمان. عجل الله تعالى فرجه وسهل الله مخرجه، وجعلنا من أنصاره وأعوانه والذابين عنه والمسارعين إليه في قضاء حوائجه والمستشهدين بين يديه جميعا، ورحمة الله وبركاته. صلوات الله.